Hello, everyone, and of course, my name is Zenzi Sewa, and my guest today is Kimberly Braun. And Kimberly, who was a nun, wasn't born a nun, but she became a nun. She was a Ceramite nun, but now she is a minister. She is a mystic adventurer and beloved of the eternal mind. And she's written several books, and she's here with us today to tell us her journey, her story of her beginnings, and hopefully how she became a nun and what made her change from that and move on. Because we're living in a time where there's so much going on, and we need to reconnect and remember that we are spiritual beings with a physical body and a human experience, and it takes on different things. So hopefully some of you, all of you, will get some golden nuggets from here to help you along your journey of life and to overcome your challenges. So without anything else, let me pass you over to Kimberly Braun. Kimberly, hello. Oh, one thing I
Hello.
want to say to my people is Kimberly's in Boulder, Colorado. And as you know, I'm here in London. So my guests are coming from all over the world, and we're all going throughout the journey. Kimberly, welcome.
Oh, it's so great to be with you. I feel so honored to be here.
Thank you. I'm honored to have you to speak your story. So what is your story?
Well, I would say that one of my earliest blessings in life was a collection of unitive or mystical experiences that so formed my cosmology. I still live in that same viewpoint, that same awareness today, even though I'm still unfolding in it and growing in it and understanding it and evolving in it.
Yes.
It gave me the consolation of having my own understanding of what is life, what is reality, and why am I here. And the earliest that I remember was when I was 3, and my grandma was dying of breast cancer. And I was the first grandchild. And so one night she was watching me, and I remember I thought I was taking care of her. You know how little kids, you think you're like really helping. Probably, I wasn't really helping very much, but I thought I was. She had me hold her hand when she went to the bathroom, and I can imagine as a 3-year-old, I wasn't the strongest support. But anyway, I felt like I was helping her. But I remember as she was laying on the couch, there was a space in the ceiling up to the upper right that was like an open, light filled portal.
Mhm.
And I had the knowing that in my little mind, that she was leaving and that she was going to go through that portal into a place that I thought was like heaven or with angels, because I
Mhm.
could feel the presence of angels. And when I had that experience, it it influenced my perspective on her leaving. So I felt really close to her, and there was a little piece in me that didn't want her to leave me from her body. But I could also perceive how much she was in pain. And I knew that where she was going, her next step in her journey, was going to be one of really great consolation.
Oh,
And so it filled me with joy. And she did pass shortly after that. I never saw her again. And I remember telling my dad, we were at her funeral, and my dad said, "Now, do you know what happened to Grammy?" And he was there, and he was kneeling with me. And I said to him, which is so, children can have such wisdom. I said, "Yeah." I said, she's here and she's not here. She's here with us, and she's in my language then, which I don't use as much now, and she's in heaven at the same time. I'd had no conflict in my understanding of that. And I think that was very formative for me. It was like she took me by her life and broke me open or allowed the spaciousness of my own being. Like you put so well, we are spirit and we
Yes.
are here having a physical experience, put me in touch with that so clearly that it was undeniable.
Yeah.
So by her passing, it did that. And that was just remarkable.
When you say that, I think it's very important for people to realize that when we're so young, we're still very connected to here and not here. And we see and understand a lot more than people realize. And as you quite rightly say, when we're so young, we still have a lot of wisdom from beyond with us. And sometimes it's good to listen to the little people.
I agree. And then as we grow, because like you, I'm at the service of remembering.
Yeah.
As we grow, a lot of times that knowing it fades away. We become enculturated
Yes.
through many different factors. So I had many experiences like that, and my most powerful one happened. I was either 5 or 6, and so I was in the wake of having lost my grandma. I had almost lost my mom a year later, and I
Oh,
was yes, and I was very curious. I was really geeky, curious about everything. I had a natural joy for learning in life. And I would walk to and from school. Back then, at least now it's less common that kids walk to and from school by themselves at 5 years old. But back then it was nothing. I don't even remember like my mom and dad kissing me goodbye. Like I'd just slip out the door and go. And I was walking back from school and it was autumn and I loved the fall. I loved in the Midwest where I grew up. There was a significant change in nature that happened when autumn set in. The temperature changed just a tad where it had a coolness. The wind would pick up with this spirit of change to it. All the leaves would have changed color. And it was a dance. And I would walk home from school, and I loved walking home by myself because I could really be with the dance and nature. And one time, nature was dancing so vibrantly to me that I just had to join in. So I whirled home as part of the dance. And it was like Sufi whirling, but I didn't know Sufism back then.
yeah. Yeah.
And so here I am whirling home and I get to the edge of our cul-de-sac and I just stop and I'm like, ah. And I open my eyes. I'm just taking it all in with so much happiness. And then unexpectedly, there's a tree across the street that is like a person to me. It's so bright and it reaches out and it pulls my gaze. The tree was saying, look at me, look at me. So I was like riveted into that gaze. And then one leaf on that tree did the same thing. It pulled my gaze in and I became so merged with that leaf. And the leaf was attached to the branch, but it was kind of waving like this. And it was a delicious moment of that leaf just going like that. So I was just there so fully with no filters. And then I'm giving words to what's wordless. Unexpectedly, the leaf dropped. It broke away from the branch and it started circling down to the ground. And from nowhere, this really deep existential question arose that had sadness to it. It rose up, and within me, in a wordless way, I was carrying what I think we all carry until it's answered. Is that it? Like, because in my perception, the leaf was dying. Like, is that all life is about? And again, wordless. But the moment that question rose up from my fibers, and obviously it was in the wake of this loss, because at such a young age, I wouldn't have known intellectually, but I was processing loss in this life. Like we came into these bodies and why? It's one thing to know you're a spiritual being. It's another thing to have some grasp as to like, why are we even in these bodies with
Yep.
all the suffering that happens in the world? So right when that arose within me, I call it the beloved. I call the eternal and God the beloved. The beloved, it felt like the beloved didn't even want me to suffer for a moment. Time stopped and I could feel energetically, it's like these veils pulled back. And it was like a vortex. I kind of plunged more deeply into this experience that I was having. And I became aware that all of this life and form has two qualities to it: being and becoming in God, being and becoming in spirit. And when I awoke to that, it filled me with so much joy that it washed away any concern. And that was, to me, the real takeaway, because it's one thing to have an experience that lets us feel good. It's another thing to have an experience that washes away existential concerns we might have and gives them that divine answer. And that's
Yes.
what happened. It was gone. It was like, whew, and it formed my whole cosmology. It's the worldview that's my worldview even today, because it's never waned in its brilliance.
That, and I had to write it down. What you said was so significant. Being and becoming in God, being and becoming in spirit, and realizing that spirit and God are the same. They're not individual, they're all part of the same. And realizing that we are an extension of God, and because we are that spirit that God has created and shared with us, and as though we go out in the universe or wherever, and we are that force of God, never to be cut off, really. And if we are cut off, it's for us to reconnect and come back.
Yeah, I love the way you put that. It's so consoling to realize that we're never disconnected from
No.
source. We can have the fear that can
Yes.
happen or did happen because of various sufferings and trauma that happened. But that's the greatest consolation. Yeah.
It's like a big, as I'm talking to you, it's like an elastic band that has no end, that is sent out, and it seems as though it's gone,
Yeah.
but it's still connected. But space is so big and so vast and so much to be explored, yet it's still there.
Mhm. Yeah.
Being and connecting and becoming God, being and becoming spirit. Beautiful. I love those words. Please continue.
So it was really something, because my life, by way of its history line, is very similar. We're all we're all in this dance of pleasure and pain, of ignorance and knowing. We have moments that cause us suffering. We have moments that cause us deep joy. And my life is similar. I've had to really help people understand that, because when they look at a lot of my background and that, they're like, gosh, I'd like to have that. I'm like, no, 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 you're having the same experience that I am. Uh, but what did happen for me is, because I was so curious, I connected the dots. So when these things were happening, because when we're little, we're having experiences like this in a wide variety of ways. I had these experiences happen right within my family. I had them happen within my church setting. I had them happen with nature. So they were happening. And I do believe all children are having a thin veil experience in a lot of ways.
Yes, yes, they are.
For me, which kind of, I guess, gave me part of my reason for being here, my mission, is I connected the dots. I'm like, oh, this is it. And what I did is I held on to it.
Mm.
So even in moments when I went through my own confusions and doubt, I never moved away from that being held and that knowing. And I everything was the litmus test, everything measured up against that or within that is probably a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
So I never totally forgot. I go through moments of ignorance, but I never totally forgot where I felt disconnected. And so that's framed my whole life. And we grew up in a my family, I feel, was given this great blessing because of some of the challenges we had with almost losing my mom and things like that. We ended up having something happen at our church, and this is Midwest Ohio, called a charismatic movement. It was called Christ Renews His Parish. And what happened is this priest who was beautiful soul, just a beautiful person, brought this program in that opened everybody up to gifts of spirit. So we
Oh, beautiful.
participating in healing and prophecy and spontaneous prayer together and remembering of who we are as spirit. And that really, I think, was a great blessing for my mom and dad as parents, very young parents. My mom was 17 when she was pregnant with me, very,
Oh,
very
very.
young.
Mm.
So in a way there was a little providential guidance there. And within that, then it made it very normal to open up to the divine.
Mm.
And within that unspoken safety, even though I didn't talk about a lot of my experiences, they continued to happen. And then in my late teens, I went through a really, really big dark night. I had a major move into uh, confusion as a teenager because I was very passionate on every level. I was passionate physically, intellectually, emotionally. And there was either some collective consciousness wound mingled with a personal wound. I didn't know if that was a good thing. I
Mm.
became very worried that what I was not of God,
Yeah.
these movements within me. And I struggled. I went into a very, very deep, dark night.
Okay.
And from that, I ended up having an out of body experience that washed me of that. And in this near death experience, I was so washed of it that the awareness came that to be passionate is of spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and being washed of that, I was given a choice at that moment. I was so young, I was only 19. And the eternal one, I heard within my very fiber, it was like I wasn't in body anymore, but on a makeup of the Kimberly part, I was not Kimberly and I was Kimberly at the same time in this out of body experience. I
Yeah.
was completely merged with the spaciousness of all beingness, but I still had a sense of the meanness that was the individual in relationship to something. And this question arose from within me, and it was so beautiful. The question was, do you want to return to your body? And what was so beautiful in that question was, I knew that either choice was perfect. There was no judgment. There was no call. There was no need to. I didn't have to work something out. I didn't have to have a mission. It was pure divine desire. Do you want to go back in your body or don't you? It was so free. It was so awesome. And I could connect then to what it was the Kimberly divine desire wanted, free of all these ideas and conditions. And I had this natural passion to come back into my body. And so I came back into my body, and then my mystical experiences exploded for, wow, probably 4 years. It was like I was making love with God, and there was a lot of phenomena that happened. But what I noticed in the phenomena, there were things, visions, miracles, ecstasies, bilocation, parallel universes, all this was happening. And what I was noticing, though, that was most valuable to me was my heart and my mind were growing. That interested me more than the phenomena. And as that was all happening, uh, within that period, Carmelites, who are mystics in the Catholic tradition, became my friends. People I didn't know became my friends. Teresa of Avila, Teresa lived in the 1500s. Teresa of Lisieux lived in the 1800s. John of the Cross, 1500s. Teresa Margaret Mary, Edith Stein, uh, all of these amazing individuals became as real as you are sitting before me. And they really became my friends. And I began to desire to be with them. And that's when I discovered monastic life, which is what they were. They were monastics. And I didn't know monastic life existed. It's interesting how you can be within a religious tradition and not know parts of the tradition.
Yes, very much so. Because sometimes it's just hidden. It's just not spoken about. As it's,
Right.
it's supposed to be woo-woo, but yet.
It's crazy because even when I told my mom and dad about it, my dad was concerned it was a cult. And understandably so, because it's a very rigorous, unique lifestyle.
Yeah.
And the call was so strong, and it was interesting because it was very painful, the thought of leaving my family, the thought of choosing a lifestyle that would then take me away from the normal family things, the weddings, the children being born, the hanging out for birthdays, like I was going to be leaving all that, and that was very painful to me. But the call and the subtle joy was so great that I had to say yes. And I was so on fire. And again, this is my language then, with love for God. Like I was so on fire. And with this making love full bodied with God that was happening almost every day, if not every day, it was kind of like it was a no brainer. I wanted more of that. And I wanted to get to know any limitations I had within myself to the unmitigated experience of spirit. What I love about this journey is you look at my experiences and they're so phenomenal. They're so like, wow. They're like, wow. And you can see within it, though, I'm still having my normal progression of understanding as well.
Yes.
I still got my normal process of where do I belong? Why am I here? Is it okay for me to be passionate? All these normal things are finding themselves illumined by the spirit of my being. And that's what I think is part of my gift, is that there isn't anywhere I can't go within anybody's journey, because I've been down all those roads. I grasp it from a deep level of compassion and knowing, because I've gone there and kind of like jumped off the cliff in these ways and discovered the unchangeable part of myself. Teresa of Avila, who had very, very dramatic experiences, and many know of her outside, because I'm not Christian anymore by name. I don't belong to a church anymore. My path has become very universal, even though it's got a strong energy signature. Teresa of Avila is beloved outside of the Christian tradition. And she, up until she was 63, she still, as mind-blowing as her experiences were, feared she could lose God. Up until she was 63. So you look at her life and you look at her illuminations that happened, and you say, how could this woman have fear of losing God when she experienced so much of her nature of being God, because that was part of her path. That ignorance was part of what opened her up. And it was finally when she was 63 that she awakened, 4 years before she died, to realize that she can never fall away from the embrace that she's always in.
Because we're always a part of that. We're never disconnected from that. And I suppose it's a question, because we're living on this earth and we are connecting to everybody and interacting, that there are things around us that may entice us, I suppose, and fool us. And I suppose we're afraid that if we're not aware enough, we can be led down the wrong way or do the wrong thing that may cause us to be disconnected.
Yeah. And we're enculturated to be afraid of what we are and who we are.
Yes. We're culturated to, and when we say culturated, it's a continual brainwashing that has made us forget who we are and what we are. Because when we realize, as Teresa did 4 years before she died, that she can never be disconnected and she can never lose it. But we have been brainwashed, culturated to think we're not that, we're this, and we're nothing like that. And we have nothing and we are nothing. And what we need to realize is we have everything and we are everything.
Yes. Yeah, well put. I love the way you put that. Yeah, so so that's like a light overview since you asked my journey. And I loved being Carmelite in so many ways. And I'd like to demystify the idea of monastic life, because a lot of times people go, oh, I just want to join a monastery, right? Oh, like as though that kind of relieves you of the of the pressures of the world, quote unquote. And there is some truth to that, because whenever you join a community that has one focus, it gives you the chance to step into the energy of that focus. And so there is a way that there is a concentration of energy that makes it more available for you to live in that presence with great ease than being in a society that is shooting in many different directions. So I get that. And I get the heart of the desire. Where there's naivety is that you encounter all the world in the monastery, because you don't escape yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Any of the places within yourself that are wounded or disconnected from knowing or ignorant or have trauma or have beliefs that are less than what you're made for, that's your lens, and it becomes heightened. So it's like being a warrior, because you're in a high energy experience and you hit up against your limited beliefs, your limited senses of self. And I don't know that there's anything that is more painful than the hitting up against your own fears with all its rawness. That's why we sometimes avoid ourselves, is because we're afraid if we encounter that, we'll be lost forever, as though that's the final say. So in a monastery, you're opening yourself up to all of that. So you don't want to be naive, as though la 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 la, you know, or like
no, it's not.
You're entering the real battleground. You're entering the real heart of where the delusional self tries to maintain its own sense of limited stability. But I wanted that. So monastic life worked for me because I was really clear when I went in what I wanted and what I was longing for. And then I was a nun for 10 and a half years. I took solemn vows. Solemn vows in the Catholic tradition are for life. I thought I was going to live that lifestyle for the rest of my life. And then it was about my 7th year in, I joined a monastery in North Dakota. And then before my solemn vows, the leaders in the community asked if I would join a daughter community in Texas that needed support. They only had 4 nuns. They were struggling. It was just, they were trying to make a new monastery there. They just were encountering a lot of challenges. They didn't tell me all those challenges. It was really struggling. The community probably should have reabsorbed into the mother community because they really had some challenges. But they just looked at it very idealistically. Well, we'll send young nuns and then they'll bolster the community. So I had a vision. Mary came to me in that vision. And in that vision, and that's in my 3rd book that just published, I said yes, encouraged by this vision of Mary that encouraged me to go. So I went down, and about a year and a half into being there, I was meditating back in the backyard, and I heard Spirit say within me, build the permanent monastery. And here I am, like a 29-year-old Carmelite nun, no formal experience. And my grasp of that was just, it was so joyful. I gave a big yes, but I honestly didn't know what I was saying yes to. I just thought I was saying yes to it happening for our community. I didn't realize I was saying yes to being the general contractor, one of the designers, and one of the spokesperson as the principal fundraiser. I was like at the helm of it. I had
Yeah.
no idea that's what I said yes to. And isn't that the way it is in life? We receive these inspirations and we're so excited in the inspiration. We're like, I'm
Let's
all
go.
in.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And you get all this coming out. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, totally. It was totally like that. It was like, oh, I didn't realize. But but I was downloaded with everything I needed to know. I was reading shop drawings and having discussions with engineers and managed a multi-phase project. And long story short, in that process, I was evolving like we all evolve. We all evolve with our yeses.
Yes.
And in that evolution, I didn't realize that I was evolving in a way that once the project was done, I no longer fit in my monastic community. Now, that's retrospective.
You had grown.
In such a way
that you didn't realize.
Not at all. I would never, because I looked forward. I built the kind of monastery I would want to live in.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting that I ended up being called to leave 5 months after the dedication, because I'm like, this is exactly the lifestyle I would want in a monastery. And now I'm leaving, like
somewhere else.
Yeah. So it was my path has been from yes to yes to yes, not from yes to no more to yes. But in that expansion, it readied me for another illumination. And in that illumination, I was aware my next step was to leave. Mm-hmm. So it was that simple. It was really unexpected. And then Providence lined it up. I got a scholarship to do my grad work and do my seminary training, which was a perfect step for me because I moved from community to community. I think I would have floundered had I left monastic life and had no community to land in, which is what happens when people leave dramatic lifestyles. Or maybe you leave something dramatic in your life. Maybe you've been married for 35 years and you both realize you're not meant to be together any longer, or anything that's a dramatic where it's like all your world changes. So I was blessed. I moved right into a community of individuals from all around the world who were going through changes, spiritually speaking, in their ministries. And I landed there.
You have been prepared, as you say, if you leave like a married life, you've been there for 30 years and now you're no longer suited. But if you've been just doing this, now you're faced with the outside world and you're not prepared to face the outside world because you've just been living like this. So it's a shock. Whereas you went from yes to yes to yes, and each time you were being strengthened and built up. So going through the changes, you're very lucky.
I
But
was so fortunate.
I say lucky, you are fortunate because you were guided each way by spirit, by God,
Yeah.
by your guides
Yeah.
who held you, who held you.
So much
And
so.
you listen. That was the most important thing.
It was. And I was probably one of the biggest qualities that I had in that transition was peace. My inner peace was like a vortex, like a column of light within me. It was effortless. It was so effortless. That peace was untouchable. And when I entered the monastery, it was pre-cell phone computer. When I left, it was cell phone computer world. Like the society operated so differently. I came back into a world that I barely recognized. It was so dramatically different. So there were so many practical ways that I was supported. It was really, really remarkable. Yeah.
So, Kimberly, you've done quite a bit, and you've experienced quite a lot. Um, and need I say, experienced things that many would have loved to in one way, but this was your journey, your understanding. So, leaving your Carmelite community, and this is what I wanted to pick up. Just something you said earlier when you said that when you leave from the outside world to come into this monastic world, and it can look like a woo-woo, but actually, because you're all together and going through the same things, as you said, that energy is there and it helps you, supports you in a way to go through what you need to go through. Whereas if you're outside of the monastic world, you're hit with so many other things that you're not facing yourself, you're not understanding, and you can get in like a tumbling situation. Pardon me. But being in that monastic world, it supported you in that way that that energy was there where you could concentrate and you could face what you needed to face. And I think it's so important living today when you're in community with like-minded. In some ways you support one another, and things that you go through you can share that one another, and it helps you to go through what you need to go through when you're in like-minded, in an open cocoon, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's helpful.
Yeah.
So here you are now, you've left the monastic out, you've done so much. Where are you now today? Because I know you've written books, and through all your journeys and everything, you've taken that and now you're sharing that with the world. What are you doing at the present time?
Right. Yes. And so to frame it, I left in 2001. So I have been 24 years now in service in a new way. Monastic life is just as much service because you're really praying for the world, but
Yes.
in service in a new way. And it's taken many forms. And presently, I have online spiritual community so that people of different time zones can come together in a rich experience of presence and practices that are non-lineage based. So I draw upon all lineages. And many people are looking for a home. Don't quite fit maybe
Yes.
in brick and mortar communities that they're finding around there. It's like it's not quite. So mine is a real be faithful to your truth, discover what your truth is, find the courage to open up, to give your yes to life. So I have online spiritual community, and I do a lot of free offerings, and then you can be part of a little paid subscription to participate in deeper dives, do a lot of meditation immersions. And then since my third book just recently published, I'm right at the service of that. So places are bringing me in, and I'll go wherever. If you're listening to this and you want me to come in to your community, I will come wherever anybody wants to have me. So I come in and I offer talks, or I will offer sessions, little immersions. They're different than workshops. Workshops, I think, hit with a more practical face to them. Mine are practical. They really, I'm about being in the body, but mine are deeper immersion. So the things I do, you just kind of drop in and experience that self, capital S. And then I lead retreats. I have a retreat coming up in Spain in a couple weeks. And so that's a lot of what I'm doing right now. I'm at the service of this message of this third book, Miracles in the Naked Light.
Okay, so how do people connect with you? How can people contact you?
Yeah, you know, I've made it really easy. If you're listening to this and you feel resonant, then I know that I feel resonant with you as well. I think it's always a two-way street.
Yes.
Everything you can find is on my website, kimberlybraun.com. My free Patreon account where you can get weekly mystic moments. You can sign up there. You can find books, CDs. You can join my online community. You can discover what I'm doing in the world. You can watch videos. I've got hundreds of videos. You can sign up for an online course. You can read my blogs. So it's kimberlybraun.com is this house where you can find the many rooms of where you feel drawn.
Okay, so Kimberly, your journey is fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your journey, what you went through, what you saw from the age of 3, and where it's led you today. And for all of my listeners today, please, you can go to Kimberly's website, Kimberly, Kimberly, Braun, Braun. It's there in the write-up. You go to her website, and I've actually looked at your website. It's got everything there quite clearly put out for videos, for workshops, for if you want personal attention from Kimberly, her newsletters. She's got a beautiful website. So please feel free to go to Kimberly Braun's workshop and connect with her. If you feel that resonance, if you want to know more, please go ahead. Kimberly, just before we end this podcast, to my viewers, what little golden nugget can you leave with them in a way to uplift them or guide them? What can you advise?
You are not alone. And all that you need, and even more than that, all that you want, is found at the very center of your being. And you may not feel that you know the way. It may feel that you feel powerless, or that there are blocks, or that you're not worthy. But the journey itself is realizing that those things truly cannot ultimately keep you from the source that you are. And so hearing those words, and even if you have the response, I believe, help my unbelief, let your prayer, let your yearning, wordless or not, be where you really are. Don't posture. Just be where you really are, and you will discover what you are.
Kimberly, thank you for those wonderful words, that golden nugget, because it's so true. We are everything, and everything is us. We are an extension of the Creator. We carry the Creator's DNA. We've never been disconnected. We've been made to think we've been disconnected and we're lesser than, and we are not. So for everybody, thank you for joining. Kimberly, thank you so much. So to everyone, bye for now.